Hello, all, and welcome back to the second ever episode of The Scarlet Letter. Today, I'm very excited. We have a very special guest with us today. Not only are they my hero and an STI HIV prevention specialist with the Bachelor's of Public Health?
Bachelor of Science in Public Health.
Awesome. But Mads is also my sibling. So today we have Mads Majewski on here. Why don't you introduce yourself to my virtual besties and tell us a little about what you do?
Absolutely. I work in HIV and STI prevention for a non-disclosed nonprofit somewhere in the southeast. We are located in one of the highest areas of HIV and STI prevalence. So we're just working to provide free and accessible HIV and STI testing, as well as sexual health education and counseling, connecting people to resources such as behavioral health and mental services, addiction treatment, housing, things like that. And we also go out in the community and try to meet people where they're at to get them testing and things like that. So,
programs like that are so essential to sexual and public health. So I do want to take a moment to thank you and all the people that you work with and the people within your community for what you do. And today's episode is all about public health, STI prevention, HIV prevention, government impact on these programs, some of the changes that have been happening because of that, and just a whole episode about really important sexual education that you might not have had. I know a lot of the stuff that I have learned from Mads has definitely played a huge part in keeping me safe as a sexually active adult and has taught me a whole lot about programs that I have definitely used and that you guys will be able to use and have access to as well in the comments. So I do have a couple of questions that I have prepared for you today. I'm going to try my best not to rocket fire them off at you, but I have a lot I want to learn. So
I can take it. Hit me with them, Chief.
What are some of the biggest sexual health myths and misconceptions?
Well, there's a lot. There is a lot of misconceptions. I've heard many things, ranging from I don't have sex with women, so that means I can't have STIs because girls are the ones with cooties. All the way to I've been told HIV isn't real and things like that. But honestly, the most common misconception, I think a lot of people have this one, is I think people's level of risk and their level of perceived risk is not the same. A lot of people think that maybe just because they don't have sex that often, or maybe they don't have sex with that many people, that STIs aren't something that they should be, concerned with, or, something to keep in mind. But that is typically not the case. It's something that everyone should be mindful of and, do their best to prevent and get themselves tested and things like that to protect their sexual health.
Absolutely. I think it does not only showing yourself such love and respect, but also the people that you're hooking up with and your community, maybe not even people that you've hooked up with, but just people that are sexually active in your area, keeping those people safe as well as keeping yourself safe.
Absolutely.
Should people in monogamous relationships be getting STI testing? And if so, how often?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that comes up very frequently, actually. I usually tell my clients, per, what the CDC recommends, literally everyone, even if you've been married 10, 15 years to one or only having sex with one person, should get a full STI panel at least once a year. And then if you have multiple sexual partners, not use condoms consistently, things like that, then you can do every 3 to 6 months. But typically, as frequently as you feel, the need to get tested with at minimum once a year. And STIs are the same as STD, by the way. Just the I for infection is a little bit more accurate than the D for disease. So we're trying to switch over the terminology over into that direction.
Yeah, I think switching it to STI not only is more like medically accurate, but it also erases a little bit that taboo is like, oh,
Right.
you've had a sexual health issue in your life, therefore you have a disease.
Right.
It seems very a better terminology for sure. Um, what if you're like 100% sure that you're in a monogamous relationship and your partner is like not cheating on you and you don't want to accuse them of cheating, so you're afraid to go get tested? How could someone should someone still be getting tested even if they're 100% sure?
Yeah.
And how should they navigate that conversation with their partner?
Absolutely. It's really a matter of just protecting your sexual health. It has nothing to do with like how much you trust it doesn't mean you trust your partner any less, it doesn't mean you don't love them any less, anything like that. Just things aren't, the reality of protecting your sexual health just is that things aren't as black and white as I think a lot of people think. For example, this is something that is pretty spooky to a lot of people. And I always tell, let them know that I'm telling you this not to scare you, but because it's the truth. But the most common STI symptom is no symptoms. Especially younger people can often have no symptoms at all. If they do have symptoms, maybe they get it confused for a UTI or, a yeast infection, BV, something like that. Even with HIV, I've heard people thinking, they had like the flu or something like that when they actually had HIV. So people can actually go into like monogamous relationships not realizing that they had an STI and actually give it to that other person. So always a really good idea to get a full STI panel once a year, for sure.
Yeah, that's not something I really, I don't think a lot of people think about as someone coming in with something and then, feeling maybe your partner had cheated on you because they
Right.
brought something in from before maybe
Yeah.
you guys had even met. So that's comforting to know that not everything is a red flag for cheating when it comes to STIs and relationships, and getting tested has nothing to do with your trust and respect for your partner. If anything, you're showing your partner more respect by caring more for your sexual health by keeping them safe also.
Absolutely. And your health information is your health information. We have HIPAA, which is the federal law protecting your private health information for a reason. So definitely, what you and your doctor discussed is your business. So always feel free. Yeah.
We love HIPAA.
We love HIPAA.
Should I ask someone their status before or after I hook up with them?
So typically when we're helping people come up, when they come in for testing, we try to help them come up with a plan and strategy that is most realistic to them. So typically I say if it is realistic for you to have a conversation prior, about someone, if they've been tested recently, things like that, before having sex with someone, I highly recommend it. Just because again, there's no way to know for certain unless you have those lab results, baby. Even asking to see those lab results can be really helpful because and
for sure.
That's the only way you can 100% know for sure.
An extra layer of security, right, for
sure. If not, you can. There are other ways to protect yourself. You could use condoms for any kind of oral, anal, or vaginal sex, using different condoms for each one. Because not so fun fact, you can get chlamydia and gonorrhea in the back of your throat. A lot of people learn that the hard way. But yeah.
I was honestly shocked when I learned that you had to trade condoms between what you're doing.
You could transfer.
Yeah.
Let's say you have something on the back of your throat. Let's say you perform oral sex on someone, and then either you're not using a condom at all during this entire time, or you're using the same condom the entire time. Whatever was just in the back of your throat. Let's say you proceed to go and have vaginal or anal sex, just transferred.
Anywhere
damp and moist.
Damp and moist. Take care of your
You know what
damn
I
and
always
moist
say.
places, folks.
Anywhere it's damp and moist.
How do you start the conversation
Yeah.
when asking someone for their sexual health status in a way that doesn't maybe ruin the moment or kill the mood, make them feel like you're not accusing them of anything, just that you're, being passionate about your own sexual health?
Yeah, I think making it clear that, it's not like you're making some kind of assumption about them or like, accusing them or anything. It's just like, hey, like I'm really passionate about protecting my sexual health. It's really important to me that I'm, taking care of myself. So it seems like, we're going into this like a sexual direction. And just, before we do anything like that, especially if we're not using condoms, like, have you been tested recently? Could I see like your lab results if that's the case? It's not that I don't trust you or I don't like you. It's just, I'm being responsible. Just make it clear. It's like, hey, I just want to protect myself and I care about you. I care about you. I care about myself. Let's, talk sexual health.
Yeah, I think that's a really green flag when getting into a new relationship with someone is they respect you enough to take care of their own up-to-date testing, showing you their results, letting you know that they're in the green light to get going in the bedroom. That also shows that they are like that with their other partners, so they're keeping their past partners safe. And knowing that someone has, been a good past partner, keeping up with their sexual health and caring about your body and taking care of their own, I think that is a huge green flag when beginning to date or hook up with someone.
Absolutely. Girls will love that.
So true. I think I'd be so impressed if
Yes.
a man took me on a
guys
date
out there, yeah.
for us to go get tested before.
Yes, no, it's
further.
genuinely a very good, like it could be a very cute date idea. Like going to get tested and maybe you can get some dinner after,
So true. I think that is it also doing things like that and being open encourages people seeing that behavior as they go and date and meet other people and do other things. That encourages them to see that as the norm, and then it erases the taboo behind talking about testing, about if you do get an STD, if you have had one, treating it, being able to communicate with other partners so that they know. It just erases the stigma so that we can be more healthy as a society when it comes to how we talk about sex and STI testing.
Absolutely. Can definitely be a huge tool in decreasing stigma around STIs, because it's just a part of being an adult.
So I know we've spoken a lot about this in privately also, but about DEI, the Trump administration, and how the government right now has affected public health places like yours and testing and their effect on the community.
Yeah, so far there's been a huge impact. The CDC, their staff are being laid off quite a lot, as many, federal agencies are. But one of the hugest things have been, in the attacks on DEI, which for those who don't really, probably heard it being thrown around, but don't know exactly what it means. It's an acronym that stands for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you may be like thinking that is very broad, and you'd be very correct. What is considered DEI and what is not considered DEI hasn't been made explicitly clear to us. But a lot of agencies, including the one that I work for, that I do not speak on behalf of, have been told, like, essentially, get rid of all your DEI stuff, or we're going to take all of your funding away. Not just like funding relating to certain programs, but like all of the funding. Which for nonprofits like mine and like places that rely on like grant funding and things like that, that is like a huge problem. And yeah, it is. My agency in particular, which is really sad, we had to take down a lot of stuff pertaining to our like trans programs and like our trans supportive stuff. Like, so it kind of feels like we're all like collectively going back in the closet, which has been so fun. Not. But just because it's, we can't afford to, if we lose our funding, that means we lose so much, our ability to care for these people that desperately need care. Because we are, huge. I think the biggest in the state that I'm in, like the biggest HIV care provider in the state. Those are, thousands of people that would be without care. So.
Yeah, and I can't imagine the just disappointment and pain that comes along with, especially working in a career that is supposed to be like hyper allies of people that have programs specifically for queer people, to have to take 10 steps back while trying so desperately to move forward and to help others.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to keep motivated when there's so much happening that is just absolutely removing queer joy.
Right. Yeah, it's because we love being visible and vocally, supportive of these community, because being vocal about our support and providing as many targeted resources as we can is that's how you do effective public health programs. Is you make them targeted towards a certain population, and centered to their needs. So by removing that is a huge hit to HIV and STI prevention and public health in general.
So that is really disheartening to have to experience for you and your team. How do you guys work together to keep queer joy going while there are so many things that are kind of working against what you guys stand for right now?
Right. I think we're just being there for one another, most, if not all of my coworkers are some flavor of queer are under the umbrella. So just really just being supportive to each other, being mindful and,
So I know it can be, as from what you've consistently told me about and seeing within the communities, the just disappointment in having to take 10 steps back as a society. How do you guys keep queer joy alive and support each other through times like this?
Yeah, as I believe I've mentioned to you before, a significant portion of my coworkers are, also queer. I'm very vocally queer myself in my workplace. So we've really just been trying to, be kind and, mindful to one another, be very supportive of one another, and really just doing, trying to see what we can do outside of the workplace, whether it be, protesting or just sharing community resources, things like that, or lobbying information, just trying to do the best what we can outside the workplace, as well as, being as kind and considerate to one another and supportive, to each other, and not even just within our organization, but our health department or, other community partners that we're partnered with, keeping that same mindset.
But yeah, I know time and time again as a society, there have been times where we are brought 10 steps back after so much hard work and going forward. But I have seen time and time again, the community is stronger, and it, at the end of the day, it will bring us closer as a community, and we will know better practices, know how to help those around us, educate ourselves a little more, and come out of it on the other end once these 4 years are up, stronger, and can go back to continuing to build as it's happening.
Right. In regard, I know it feel it definitely, at times it can feel like we've gone 10 step backs, or what was all that work for? Was it all for nothing? The truth is no. All of that, it was not for nothing. We're able to do so much, and even though we're not able to do maybe as much as we'd like right now, we can still do amazing things, and we can still be here for our community during this difficult time. And another thing I've been, trying to keep in mind of, I have the privilege to work with and get to know some genuine heroes, the queer people, trans people who we're alive during the AIDS crisis, and like we're actively working to get the like administration to recognize it being a problem and like something that like needed attention and care and funding for to address this problem. Some of their voices like contributed to like the Ryan White Act and Ryan White programs, which are currently helping to fund life-saving HIV care to this day for thousands of people. And it makes me feel good to know that like we've been here before. Our queer ancestors or our queer elders or older people within the community have carved a way for us, and we can learn from them, and we can do it again. And a lot of these things are like being able to be vocally supportive of trans people, being to people's insurance, paying for like gender affirming care, and surgery. Like these are all very recent things, and we have been there and survived prior to all this happening, or we've survived without those resources easily accessible before, and we can do it again, to get them hopefully back up to where they need to be.
Absolutely. And being able to maintain that mindset is so healthy and so helpful when you're able to stop yourself from spiraling and seeing all of the awful changes that are being made in seeing what's going on in politics right now, and just in the world in general, seeing all that can be really disheartening. So having that mindset is so helpful, especially I know with the clients that you guys deal with every day, maybe seeing someone get diagnosed for the first time, or someone is coming in because of something that happened to them and maybe they're an assault victim looking for care. I know doing that every day can also be draining on your mental health. How do you guys deal with stuff like that so that you're able to continue to care for your clients, but also care for yourself as well?
It's always really important, like when we're going in to like talk with a client, that we keep like our fears and our anxieties, about the world and its current state to ourselves, just because we don't want to put any additional stress or anxiety on that person. And just like focusing our energy entirely on what is going to be the best for them to hear. What are you being very mindful of what you're saying, and like saying things that are going to be helpful rather than harmful, and cause like someone to spiral or something of that nature. And then just, when we're away, from like the testing room or exam room, back on just one-on-one with themselves, like making sure you're really taking care of yourself, and, giving yourself space to heal. And because you do take on like a level of proximity trauma, I guess. There's another word for it, but from people who are struggling, maybe even struggling with things that you have struggled with before, or it can be really hard. But yeah,
it can be triggering. Yeah,
it can be very triggering. Like especially like when you sit like with sexual assault, and which is you wouldn't maybe not something that you typically think, but when someone has experienced an assault, they're a lot more likely to go to a clinic, like an STI testing clinic, than they are to go to like the police or, maybe somewhere specific, like a sexual assault clinic or something like that.
That's exactly where I went. Yeah, when I experienced my sexual assault, I went to a clinic similar to what you guys do, and they were able to provide me with things that would prevent me from getting STIs, prevent pregnancy, offer resources, therapy, things like that. People like you and places like you do save lives, and I am gonna cry a little bit.
Okay,
but you do save lives, so thank you.
But yeah, it's, very important that, you're taking care of yourself. I always tell my team, like, if you don't have a therapist, highly recommend you get one. Therapy and going to it like regularly, and like really being mindful of like the conversations you're having with your therapist and like the suggestions maybe that they're making can be so helpful, in building healthy coping skills to build your like resilience and, keep yourself healthy. That's really the best you can do. Mm-hmm.
Could you describe a little bit about the importance of harm reduction and the impact that it makes on communities?
Yeah. By harm reduction, I'm assuming you mean just like the public health approach where, we're not necessarily looking at things like super black and white. Like sometimes you got to do like what's realistic and achievable for someone. Whether it be like, instead of being like, let's say someone who's struggling with like, injection drug use, instead of being like, just don't do that. It may actually be more realistic and effective to like provide that person with clean needles, things like that. Which we're able to actually do that in my agency, which is fantastic. But the way that more often looks like in conversations that I have with clients is when coming to helping them to make a plan for better protecting their sexual health, because a lot of people I think really have a mindset. A really good analogy for this I use is New Year's resolutions. Every January, everyone's like, I'm gonna hit the gym. I'm gonna go 7 days a week. I'm gonna get gains. I'm gonna be buff as hell. That's unfortunately not super realistic for people. And, what usually ends up happening is, because they set unrealistic goals, and they're really harsh on themselves for not meeting those unrealistic goals. And then they end up, not being able to do anything at all. Changing and choosing to make healthier behaviors is something that takes building habits, and those happen slowly and incrementally. So usually like, a client who comes in for STI testing, maybe they never use condoms, like 0% of the time. It's going to be really unrealistic. I really am not going to be able to look that person in the eyes and go like, okay, we'll use them 100% of the time, because that's just not going to be realistic. Yeah. Instead, I could say like, hey, does 10, 15% sound realistic? Or maybe instead of condoms, like, have you heard about PrEP, which for those of you who don't know, stands for pre-exposure prophylaxis. Prophylaxis is just a fancy medical slang meaning something that prevents disease or infection. It's either like a pill you take once a day or an injection you get every 2 months. They're actually working on one that's going to be every 6 months, and I'm very excited for it. But basically, it's a medication. If you're taking it consistently and correctly as it's prescribed, it's up to 99% effective in preventing HIV, which is fantastic. So, offering options like that, or, different things that may better work with their lifestyle, maybe having conversations with their sexual partners before having sex, whatever works for that person and their specific needs.
Absolutely. I can imagine once you go in there and you are provided with all of that education, mm-hmm. instead of feeling scared like you did when you came into the clinic, maybe if you're having a scare, right. Or, if you're there because you experienced an assault and you need mm-hmm. resources, going in there so stressed out about it and then coming out with all the education not only can relieve so much anxiety, mm-hmm. But definitely make you feel empowered to make better choices because you have the education.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly. Giving them tools to use in their tool set. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah. What are some goals that you hope to accomplish in your public health career?
I don't have like specific goals. I hope to keep working, at the organization I'm working at now, and continuing to like serve like the queer community in that way. I'm really passionate about sexual health and wellness. I'd love to get some, I'd like to get some programs like to, further our efforts into like spreading like sexual health education and, empowering people like that. Nothing super specific. I just want to I just want to help people.
That has always been something you've always done your whole life. So I think you've definitely found a perfect career to do it. That being said, do you have any projects that you're working on or hope to work on when it comes to sexual health that you're excited to share?
Actually, there's a little project. Actually, I think that you and I have been talking about in regards to doing some sort of like crash course on consent, like consent 101 or something like that. Just because that's something I think is often overlooked when it comes to sexual health education, but is absolutely crucial that it is something that is discussed. I would really love to do basically, if any of you guys have seen the infamous tea video that they sometimes they show it in like high schools or colleges and things like that. Like it does what it does, what it can. But I think unfortunately by talking in like roundabout language, it doesn't make things very clear, and it's not like as expansive as it should be, in my opinion, like on regards to consent. So I'd really like to, have a video, something like that like maybe high school students could watch, college kids could watch to, understand consent, just because it's just something that people aren't really formally taught, if ever, in their lives. And it's so important.
And like what you said about the roundabout terminologies, it is great for what it is and for what they, at the time, definitely, I know has helped a lot of people in its years since being published. But talking about things in their actual terminologies, using terms that are correct, a little bit less sugarcoaty and more accurate, both scientifically and, when it's worked on by someone who works in public health. I think that completely erases not completely erases, but helps erase the taboo when it comes to talking about consent and testing and things like that.
Yeah.
I know we were debunking some myths earlier. I know a lot of women or assigned female at birth people have asked me if they are at risk for HIV, if they should get on PrEP. Because I know a lot of people think they don't need it, but I think we can definitely debunk that here today.
Yeah, at pretty much every sexually active adult, especially like if you're living in, places of very high prevalence like Los Angeles or New York, Atlanta, Houston, like these big cities, where you're going to be at even higher risk. Everyone is at risk for HIV. I think there's like this misconception that it's like HIV is just kind of like a gay thing. Is by no means a gay thing. Straight men and women get HIV. Actually, like when you're looking like at the globe, the number one way that HIV is transmitted is through heterosexual sex. I would really encourage women to think of PrEP as just a tool to empower themselves and to, have agency over their sexual health. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I promise you'll benefit from it. Yeah.
So let's say someone learned a lot from this video today, that they learned a lot from you, that maybe were inspired to get going on their sexual health journey and maybe visit somewhere similar to what you do. Where should they start on the journey as they go through it? What are some popular places they could maybe attend? And how do they walk themselves through that journey of just getting started with the first thought of, oh, I want to take more care of my sexual health?
I mean, for like folks who have insurance or like maybe already have a primary care doctor, I mean, that's like going through your primary care doctor and having them, navigate you where you need to go. Maybe what's easiest for you. For folks that like typically get like a physical once a year, you can always bring that conversation up during then. That's also a great way to get an STI panel, by the way, because your insurance will cover it because it's part of prevention. But, many of us do not have health insurance, if that's something that's just, not accessible. But there's plenty of other ways. I highly recommend Mr. MISTR. I don't officially work with them or anything, but they are able to provide PrEP at lower costs and in a way that's very accessible for people. They can actually have you do your labs at home by yourself and send them in the mail back to them. You can do video visits and things like that. So they're a really awesome way to get prep. You can also check out your local health department. Much like you should always check out your local library and get a library card, you should also be aware of your local health department and its resources. A lot of times they're able to provide those services. There's also what is called federally qualified health centers, or FQHCs. You can look for those in your area. That might be a good way to start. And then typically, when it comes to health departments and FQHCs, if they can't help you, they'll help navigate you to somewhere that can.
And while they're beginning this journey, how might they be able to cope with feelings of shame or anxiety around testing, around maybe they are going in and beginning their sexual health journey because they feel like they've been exposed? How can they maybe tell partners that they've interacted with? How can they ease that anxiety when it comes to dealing with the taboos and the shame that they might feel around it?
I know it is definitely much easier said than done, but truly, I guess try to be, kind to yourself and not view STIs as something that is world ending, because truly, it is just a normal part of adult life. Over half of humankind will have at least one STI at some point in their life. Most people will have more than one at some point in their life. And it really is just a part of being an adult. STIs are, even HIV, one that people tend to be the most, scared of. There are treatments, even though there isn't a cure per se for things like herpes or, HIV, there is absolutely treatment available. And, in regards to HIV, the medications that we currently have for HIV treatment are so effective that after a while of taking them consistently, a person can become undetectable, which means their viral load or the amount of virus in someone's blood is so low that it is completely undetectable. And at that point, they cannot give it to anybody. So there's a U equals to U, or undetectable equals untransmissible. Those folks with HIV typically live very, healthy lives, maybe even slightly healthier than their peers, just because they're going to see the doctor a little bit more often than maybe every 6 months instead of a year. It's a chronic health condition, much like, diabetes, high blood pressure. It's something you have to manage, but it's by no means a death sentence. And it's so much better to know, because that's where STIs can be dangerous, is when you don't know and you're not getting care. That's, where you can have more of the complicated health risks. In regards to having conversations, being hey, you might have been tested or you might have been exposed. That can be something that's really scary for some people. But always good to know that there are plenty of free and anonymous resources to alert people that they may have been exposed of an STI online, where you can just give them their contact information. They can get a text saying hey, you might have been exposed to this STI. It's probably a good idea to get tested. And they don't, they won't know exactly from who. Local health departments also tend to have, depending on what it's for syphilis and HIV, they have mechanisms to reach out to people who could have potentially been exposed, and get them connected to resources and things like that.
I think it's a really comforting thought process and idea to, when you go in, like you said, see yourself as you might be even healthier than the typical person because you're consistently getting tested. They're doing blood work, like you said. Right. They're able to catch things earlier if they might have high cholesterol and things like that. So I think that's a great way to think about it, instead of I caught something, I'm dirty, and now I have to go fix it. It's instead of I'm not just fixing something, I'm being proactive and I'm taking care of my body and taking care of the people around me and those that I'm intimate with. And also those tools, like the anonymous texting apps, those can be great for people that maybe don't feel safe to tell someone that they might have exposed someone else. They're afraid of their reaction, or they just have like a lot of anxiety around it and they're afraid about how that person might react. It's better to tell them anonymously than to just avoid the problem and not tell them at all or not get tested.
Yeah, it's definitely better to know. And STIs don't, you know, they don't, it's just because of stigma we view them. But I mean, STIs don't make you like dirty no more than like, you know, getting a cold would make you dirty. You know, like, or getting COVID. Like, it's not like it's your fault, or like, yeah, and like, can wearing condoms and stuff like prevent them? Yeah, but it doesn't mean like, it's not like a moral thing. Like, you're not like a bad person for getting an STI.
Yeah. Unless you're like actively contracting them to go give them to people, then you should get therapy.
I have heard of them, folks. I ask, if you're one of those people listening, please do not.
Don't do that.
Please
stop that.
Stop that.
Get some help. So I think I have asked you all the questions that I wanted to tackle in this episode. I know this is a very large topic that has very many different sectors and things that go into it and different ways to phrase things. So I'm sure I will definitely want to have you on the Scarlet Letter again in the future to maybe tackle different topics. But thank you so much for taking time out of your busy life to come and hang out with me here for a bit.
People can submit questions and then I can answer them.
I think that is a great idea. We should do that on a live stream. I am going to put in the description a bunch of resources that Mads has helped me put together for you guys if you're curious about if you're at risk for HIV and STIs, where you can find help near you, therapy resources, information on PrEP, and all of that down below. Do you have any closing statements, questions for me, hopes and dreams?
Get tested.
Get tested.
Get tested. Get on PrEP if you can.
Get tested.
Bitch.
Get tested, guys.
Get tested.
Care about the people around you. Get tested.
Care about yourself.
Care about yourself.
Yes.
Absolutely. Prioritize your body and
your
the people you decide to share it with.
You deserve it.
Follow and subscribe here on YouTube or on Spotify. Leave me 5 stars, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit the notification so you guys never miss an episode. Hopefully you guys can see Mads again and tune into my Instagram because I post when I hang out with them all the time. Once we create that video on consent, I will definitely be posting it and providing it for you guys to enjoy and share. And yeah, hope to see you guys in next week's episode. Next week, we are talking about motherhood and sex work. I have my friend Selena Amor coming on to talk about her life as a mom and an adult content creator. So have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys very soon.